Sorry, the raffle's closed. All right, folks. We're gonna get to it because, as you know, it's high noon, and at noon we always begin LA2M at noon every Wednesday. Wow, what a crowd! I think this is our new record. There's some people here. So my name is Derek Maribon, CEO of Ingenix Digital Marketing. Welcome to lunch, Ann Arbor Marketing. Welcome. Today's a big day, and actually I wanted to do this to kick this off. Welcome to the World Cup edition of LA2M. Now, the first 125 people that bought tickets are going to get one of these. So you get it on the way out. These are custom Ingenix Digital Marketing Vuvuzelas. We bought these for you. They're handmade in China. And you're going to get them on the way out. So take one, and if you don't want to, give it to your kid. And these are very cool. Yeah, then you'll be sorry. But yeah, Ingenix sponsored this event. And this event, we're all here to see Mike Tirico, the man over here. He's been very, very gracious to speak to us. I think, and he's basically said, hey, we're going to do this for a good cause, which is Peace Neighborhood Center. Now, we're going to do a formal check presentation at the end, but I just want to let you know real quick that, well, first let's do this. Why don't you come up here? We're going to draw the winner, John. We're going to draw the winner.
If I draw my own ticket, do I get to compete?
Yeah. No. Okay. You guys, this is Stacy Colick up here from Dollar Bill Copies. She took your money, and $112 is going to the winner, right? The rest is going to Peace Neighborhood Center. So John from Neutral Zone is going to draw real quick. Get your tickets out. And let's read that out.
It is. Are we ready? 3, 1, 0, 4, 7, 4. Okay, jump up. Hurry.
All right.
You got a winner.
Yeah. Donate it back. They can have it.
Oh my God. All right. Thank you. And what's your name? I forget your name.
Kit Dickinson.
Kid. Thank you, Kid. We played basketball together.
We did.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
Take it easy on me next time.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take it easy on you. Okay. Wow, so that's, all right, thanks Stacy, thank you. So that means with Kit's donation and with the 50-50 raffle, with Connor O'Neill's donation, okay, with LA2M's donation, so let me tell you, LA2M raised $1,000 for this, okay, we're giving $1,000 to Peace Neighborhood Center. Connor O'Neill's is taking in an extra $300, okay, plus we just raised $224 thanks to Kit and the 50-50. So thanks to everyone who bought a 50-50. And Tim Marshall from Bank of Ann Arbor has agreed to double the $1,300. So Bank of Ann Arbor is doubling that. $2,824. Yeah, $2,824. Thanks, Mike. $2,824. To Peace Neighborhood Center. So thank you, Peace Neighborhood Center, for being our charity. Okay. Yeah, thanks to everybody. Tim, very generous. Tom from Connor O'Neill's and everybody who bought a ticket today contributed to that because we gave all the proceeds. So I just want to give you a quick overview. LA2M, as you know, meets every Wednesday here. Now, we don't always have like famous guys that you see on TV every week speaking, but we have really smart people talking about marketing topics, and we are a 501c3 nonprofit. The whole goal of this organization is marketing education. So if you or your team members want to learn about marketing, send them here. You can also go to the website, LA2M.org, and you can watch any of our videos. Okay, Roger Rail records them for video, and you can go to LA2M.org, and you can even watch from your office. It's live streamed. LA2M.org/live, you can live stream this, and so that's very cool. So that's good. We also have a LinkedIn group and a Facebook page. So please join us there. I think we've reached out today to a lot of people that don't normally attend. So if you could make an effort to connect with us on LinkedIn and Facebook, it'll help your business. I mean, we're all about helping other businesses, and I think this is a real collaborative effort. LA2M is completely volunteer, a nonprofit organization. Normally we pass the hat, but we're not going to pass the hat today because you've already given enough. So please come back. Please come back next week. What else should I mention? Anybody else have a big announcement they want to give this group real quick? Anything else? Yeah, Carol does? Okay, hold on one second.
You've heard it once already.
Yeah, what do you got?
I'm Carol Cam. I own Encore Online Resale. We're the eBay store over South Industrial in the Colonial Lanes Plaza, and we are having a grand opening, not this weekend, but next, in support of the Humane Society of Huron Valley. So if you're interested, I have flyers. See me after.
Thanks, Carol. Okay, one more over here.
We'd be remiss if we didn't thank everybody in the room on behalf of Peace Neighborhood Center for showing up. I realize to see Mike Tirico, but also for your donations. They're greatly appreciated. We are located on North Maple Road. We have lots of information that we can give you at the front table. If you have any questions, you can see myself, Dan Brady's here, and also our development director. And again, thank you. We appreciate all your support.
Hey, is it possible to turn the air down in here a little bit? It's getting a little toasty. I don't know if it's possible. But okay, so we're going to skip any more introductions. Mike Tirico's here. You know, this guy happens to live in the great city of Ann Arbor. He did a great job during the World Cup. I know we have a lot of soccer fans here that are anxious to hear about it. I was so excited during this World Cup. I mean, the whole thing was just amazing. And part of it was the great job that Mike and his team did, and broadcasting it was just incredible in the way that we got to view it. Mike also does Monday Night Football. He's a real smart sports guy, which I think is very impressive. But as I learn more about him, you know, he does a ton of research. I mean, this guy knows everything. Maybe not everything, but he knows a lot. Not everything. He's very humble. He's very humble. So he's going to talk for about 30 minutes. We're going to do Q&A, and when Mike opens up to Q&A, I'll walk around with this microphone, and you can ask a question to the mic so everyone can hear you. So let's give Mike Tirico a warm round of applause.
Thank you, Derek. I'm glad you brought up Vuvuzela, because I did too. And this is a great marketing story that I will tell a little bit later on. If I don't take it out, I'll forget. First off, before we start, thank you for all being here today. It's do I have a cell phone?
Anyone has a cell phone, maybe turn it off if you can.
Yeah, I think that's feedback. I'll just move myself away from the speaker. That'll help that a little bit. Thank you for being here. I think it's great to support our community, and we do it a lot, and people continue to turn out. And I'm appreciative that you've used me as your excuse to come out for lunch. Glad to see none of you are having adult beverages. You can wait till I'm done and do that at the bar. I appreciate that. I think it's very smart of a marketing firm to meet at an Irish pub every week at Wednesday at noon. It's a hell of a marketing idea to start with. You know? Thank you to LA2M. Thank you to Connor O'Neill's and all you folks do in the community. Thank you for donating as well. Thank you very much, Tim, for helping out as well for Peace Neighborhood. The quick story of how we live in Ann Arbor, my wife and I, Debbie's here, and I need to apologize up front too. Have any of you been married for 19 years or more? Well, you should really give my wife a round of applause. She's about to do the impossible. As the spouse of someone who's been married 19 years, she's going to sit here for an hour and let me speak and not interrupt. Probably, I know for me, and probably for the rest of you who've been married, well, if you've been married 19 minutes, it's impossible. Let your spouse speak for an hour and not interrupt, so I'm sorry. Although you might just interrupt anyway. Yeah. You're banned from Q&A. We have to call Dunning Toyota. They called before and something's up with the car. So one time we get to talk on a weekday afternoon. We ended up here. We moved back to be near Debbie's family, which is from downriver about 11 years ago. She didn't want to go back and live where she grew up. I didn't want to spend half my life on 9, 10, or 11 mile or telegraph to get to the airport because I travel so much. And Deb's brother went to school here. I had a couple of great experiences covering sporting events or interest in going to the University of Michigan. And that's how we ended up here. And it's the best thing that's ever happened to us. What a great place to meet people, raise a family, and become part of an awesome community. So we are lucky and thrilled to be here and proud to be neighbors of all of you. This is, I used to say, despite how young I look, but now I've lost my hair and I'm overweight. I'm middle-aged. So this is my 24th year of being on TV, and this is my 20th year at ESPN, which frightens me when I think about it. I'd like to tell people I did start young, but it's kind of becoming a moot point at this point, because I'm middle-aged. I will tell you that when we get to Q&A, we can talk about whatever sports stuff you want. It doesn't have to be World Cup related, but certainly that's the theme, and that'll be the theme of my remarks. I'll tell you that in the 20 years at ESPN, we've done a lot of amazing things. It's grown from one building, and I'd say about 400 or 500 employees on campus in Bristol, Connecticut, exactly halfway between New York and Boston. And that was when I arrived in '91. To now being over 7,000 employees, to being more than just one network, ESPN2, ESPN News, ESPNU, ESPN Classic, ESPN Radio, ESPN.com, which is, if you have a fantasy football team, you know what that is. If you have kids with fantasy football teams, you know what that is. It's become the #1 sports site of the web. And I had to look this up today. See, I live in Ann Arbor, I'm green, I don't use paper for my notes anymore, I just do it all on my iPad, my notes for speaking. ESPN, we're now in 47, we have 46 different international networks in over 200 countries and 16 different languages, which means other than some poor person who has to translate things like booyah and back into various dialects of Chinese, including Mandarin Chinese. I met a guy, true story, I met a guy in Bristol 2 years ago. He said, "You don't know me, but I'm the Mike Tirico in Mandarin Chinese." I said, "Really?" He translates Monday Night Football. So while we're on the air live, he doesn't know what we're going to say, because if you've listened long enough, you know we don't know what we're going to say. He has to sit there listening, honestly, in a box no bigger than this thing here, with a TV monitor, microphone, headphones, and he translates us into Mandarin Chinese for 3.5 hours. Poor guy. I said, maybe you can come home with me, because my wife says I speak a different language at home. Maybe you can bridge that gap. But how the place has grown absolutely blows me away every day. It really does. And from a marketing vein, and that's the overall umbrella of this gathering, I do point out there is still a mom and pop family feel to a lot of what we do at ESPN day in, day out. We have a lot of dedicated people who, #1, are sports fans. Our mission as a company is to serve sports fans wherever they consume sports, however they consume sports. And that's one of the things we try to do, and that's why you see things like ESPN.com streaming games. Games are on your computer. You can watch games on your phone. If you get these alerts, you can set up your phone so that you will get a text message every time Michigan scores a touchdown. That's also when the opponent scores a touchdown, so that may impact your text rates. You may pay a lot of extra. Unfair but accurate. Remember, Michigan's defensive coordinator, where was he before this? Anybody know? He was Syracuse's head coach, so understand, I'm familiar with this. My phone bill went up when he was Syracuse head coach. A lot of text messages. Touchdown by the opponent. In any case, what we try to do is we try to go wherever people are, and I think that's an important marketing message that we can pass along. You know, the day of put out a sign and say we have a sale is long gone. The day of our message will get out there, as you were mentioning, Derek, with Facebook and Twitter and social media. There's such an important need to get your message out to so many people wherever they consume it, but nothing does replace the face-to-face and the conversations that go on. That's truly the basis of successful business, and we found a lot of that in our World Cup experience. And I want to spend a few minutes talking about that, and then we'll branch out. In those 20 years now, 20th year of working at ESPN, I can honestly say we've been a part of a lot of fun, exciting things. Most of the major golf championships, Monday Night Football, covering all the Super Bowls, Final Fours, every big sporting event we're at, I've been lucky enough to be a part over the duration of time of a lot of that stuff. There's nothing as a company or as an individual I've been prouder of than our efforts at the World Cup. I think because we've been successful, a lot like people like to see Michigan football lose because nobody's won more than them. People take great pride in watching Notre Dame lose. It's great to wake up. My son woke up this morning. I was so happy to tell him Yankees lost again. You know, my wife just asked, where's the Monday night game this week? It's in Dallas. The Cowboys are playing. They're 1-4. America takes great joy in watching the Cowboys lose. Why do all these things happen? Why does the president, why do people have great glee no matter what party is in power, from the presidential election to see the midterm elections swing the other way? Why is it that there's always that groundswell? Because people like to see the best get knocked off. They don't like to see aristocracy or what we have in England. They don't like to see kings and queens. They like to see everybody get their chance in the system. And for a lot of that reason, ESPN has been criticized by a lot of folks, and sometimes correctly so, for setting agendas, for being the lone national voice in sports. And because of that, I think we've become a little bit of a reactionary group. Our World Cup feel was completely different. It was not about how do we promote ESPN. It was not about where are the other avenues, although those were byproducts of it. It was how do we tell a story? And how do we get back to storytelling? And before the world of sports television became highlights and top 10 lists and all this fun, crazy video stuff, it was about, and that's the business I got into and I missed desperately, telling stories. Nothing better than telling the story of a person who has overcome and succeeds. And in every sporting event, that's the case. I mean, you could talk about any quarterback, any running back, any player on a football team, and it's that personal story. And I've always felt that that reaches well beyond what his fantasy football numbers are, what his 40 time is. And we're away from that a little bit because that's what people want. People want the game and the results. They don't want the other thing, which is fine. But for the World Cup, we tried to understand what we were doing. And the number one reason that the World Cup became so important internally were our bosses. George Bodenheimer has been our president for over a decade and a half. A gentleman named John Skipper is in charge of content at ESPN. And John is a huge champion of soccer. He's one of the members of the group that is trying to secure the bid for the World Cup, in 2022 to come to the United States after it was here back about a decade and a half ago. In any case, they made it a company priority, so our company put a lot of financial resources and a lot of us who have been a part of ESPN over the years on this project. I'll be the first person to admit, especially to my neighbors here who know me a little bit, I am not a huge soccer fan. At least wasn't last year at this time. But got this assignment and kind of dove in, and there was more soccer on at obscure hours in the morning in our house than there used to be. And a lot of learning and understanding and trying to figure out what was going on. And I don't pretend to be an expert at any level, but I thought I represented going over there along with two colleagues, Bob Lee and Chris Fowler. Bob has been a great champion of soccer for over 3 decades. He's one of our 50 original employees at ESPN. He's been there since '79, and he's really old. And Chris Fowler, a lot of you college sports fans, you know Chris from College Game Day. He's done that show for almost 16 years now, and Chris follows soccer a little more closely than I have. He was the other host, and then I made 3 in terms of our hosts for all of our coverage. And I went over with the attitude that I'm the audience. I'm the person we're trying to get involved with in America here to show you what soccer is all about, how soccer at its highest platform and this huge global event can appeal. So I'm not going to talk to you about the long history of this country or this specific play in the game, just the feel for the World Cup. I thought that was my responsibility over there, and along the way became very interested in the sport beyond the fact that our kids both play, and our sons play travel soccer for a few years now, and you just kind of get caught up being soccer moms and soccer dads in suburban America in the 2000s. I really understood the passion of it. And our company said, okay, how do we take that part of it and marry it with the place? Because the place the event is being held is the most unique event, the unique place we've had for a large sporting event in the last 15 years globally. So that was a little bit of the table that was set. So how do we marry A and B? Well, that was the goal, and I'm going to show you a videotape now that we played for some advertisers, but also internally for our folks. This was done back approximately a year ago. This was to set the mood, the mindset, and the goal for us of how we were going to approach covering the World Cup. So just watch this video, and then we'll explain the marketing aspect of it.
ngihambe ngikamama, ngihambe ngemabedlane, ngihambe ngiye esikole, ngihambe ngishayamo, uhamba hamba yevithi evelitha emabedlangani emtholampilo.
Thina singamaZulu aqobo. Phela nazi ukuba nilapha nje ngamaZulu ayigqajana. One game is changing everything.
Are you back? Are you back? Stay with me, stay with me.
Welcome to South Africa. This is the World Cup.
So that was kind of thrown in our laps in November, of December this time. And so we were all charged as individuals, and there was a group, part of our production group that does a great job with images like that and editing like that and music and marrying the three together. We were all charged with bringing that spirit and that kind of relationship of a special place and a very special event together. And there was more non-soccer or non-sports coverage within our coverage of this event than any other sport I've been a part of in these 20 years of ESPN. And I was of the mindset that it didn't fit, but as we got more involved and we got over there, I realized it fit. I was over there for 43 days, I think, 43 or 44 days. And I'll say, without question, it was the most eye-opening experience I've had professionally in my life. It's an amazing place. I don't know how many have been there. How many of you have been to South Africa? So there's some people who understand the place. It is incredibly imperfect. It's a country that 17 years ago, and think of a high school senior, at the time when they were born, it was a country where white rule was still in effect, apartheid was still in effect. If you have not consumed or read any of the books about Nelson Mandela, it's worth your time to understand one of the true impact figures in the world that we've grown up and lived in. When Mandela passes, it will be an unbelievable event in South Africa for those people to reflect on his true impact on every life in that country. Simply put, we met many people along the journey. The one that struck me the most was a gentleman who was arrested in the 1980s because he was on a street corner. He's a black man. He was talking to another black man. And one of the apartheid laws were if two black men were speaking, they could be arrested for conspiring against the white government. So all they were doing was talking, and they were arrested. And they had spent several months in jail. So it's you talk about how lucky we are when we live in a place as diverse as Ann Arbor. Think about that for a second, contrasting with what I just told you. So it was a place that really impacted us and had to be a part of our coverage because so many people doubted. I'm sure many of you have seen the movie Invictus. which goes back to South Africa hosting the Rugby World Cup. And this is soon after apartheid rule had ended. Mandela was still prominently in power. And rugby is the sport of white South Africa, which was about 75 to 80% of the population of the country, or 15 to 20% of the population of the country. Black South Africa is in the neighborhood of 80%. The sport of the blacks is soccer. The sport of the whites is rugby. It sounds like such an overstatement. It's about 90% accurate when you say it. Okay? When you sit and watch people watching the rugby, so many whites. Soccer, very few whites went to the games, the national team played, or had an interest in it. The huge step of this World Cup was the whites were accepting soccer. And on another plane, the walls of apartheid were coming down. Because for the first time, the sport of the blacks was accepted by the whites who have the money, the influence, the power, by and large in that country. So that's why our folks who had gone over and researched said it's very important that we tell that story as part of our coverage. We did U2, which is, as you know, one of the great rock bands of all time and great causers of the change agent of peace in the world and harmony and unity and a rainbow world to live in through their music and song, and especially Bono's philanthropy over the years. They did a great job in getting involved with us as we approached them to do 4 or 5 songs. They did a great compilation of U2's Live at the Rose Bowl DVD, which if you're U2 fans, I see shaking heads, you're familiar with. It's one of the great rock live videos of all time. With the Soweto Gospel Choir, which has won Grammys for their performances over the years. And the Soweto Gospel Choir sang background and melody to several U2 songs. That became the theme for a lot of our coverage. So in that regard, too, we took one of the great white rock bands of all time and one of the great black singing groups, put that together as the background of our coverage, and really tried to go as in-depth as possible in telling the story of the country and how the country was a big host for the event and how much it meant to them. What does any of that have to do with marketing? Well, we marketed this event better and harder than we ever have any sporting event because of the uniqueness of the place and the uniqueness of the event. Speak just to the soccer now, and there are several people who I know are very passionate soccer fans in the room and people who have been involved in soccer at a high level, not just locally and regionally, but nationally as well. The sport is so popular around the globe. The World Cup stops countries. The stat that probably blew me away more than any other was that 88% of the Netherlands stopped and was watching their World Cup final match. 88%. Super Bowl, we do 65%, and we think we are, well, we are. That's the top-rated event in America every single year. You want to know how sad our country is? You combine all the people who watched the presidential debates for the last election, barely equals the people who watched the Super Bowl 1 year. Tells you where it is in balance. So 88% of the Netherlands. Worker productivity at record lows in Spain and the Netherlands in semifinal matches. It's just the reality of it. So we have this unbelievable event that in the U.S. has not caught. Why has soccer in America not been able to just kind of become what it is in every other country? 50 theories, 100 reasons. From my experience of the other sports and getting to know a lot of the soccer folks over the last few years, my observations are very simple. Let's say we have all these soccer moms and dads in the room here and all these club soccer teams. A lot of people who are interested in soccer here in Southeast Michigan. A lot. Think about every minivan you drive by and there's somebody's kid's soccer number in the back by the window, you know? Let's say we dropped an MLS team, Major League Soccer team, in Birmingham, Rochester Hills, someplace where you know there's a pocket and you know they're going to send out notes and your kid's team is going to go and they're going to be ball boys, you know the whole drill. We'll market it. We'll get people involved, right? Okay, is that going to eclipse the Tigers or the Red Wings or the Pistons or even our wonderful Lions or Michigan or Michigan State? Here, maybe Michigan State. But you get my point. Even if we got something involved at the grassroots level of your kids, and you can never say no to an event involving your kids, we are years away from eclipsing any of those 6 And I just put Michigan and Michigan State in one bowl, never mind splitting them up football, basketball. You know? So that's here. Same thing in Philadelphia, same thing in Boston, good soccer areas. Same thing in Columbus, which has been a very good MLS area. Same thing in Texas. So because we have all these sports, you take other countries, England, Italy, what other sports are there? It's soccer, and then everybody else is way down here trying to fight for their little piece of the earth. So from a marketing standpoint, it's the most uphill climb in sports. It's getting soccer hot in America. So why did the World Cup work? And I've got numbers in here that I won't bore you with, but simply put, more people watched the World Cup in 2010 in America than ever before. I feel embarrassed saying this. The number one reason is because of ESPN. Because for sports fans, they go to ESPN first because there's really no other national place to go. And sometimes we don't recognize our own power, but I think our management is quite attuned to it over the last few years. I like to call it the fire hydrant. If we open the ESPN fire hydrant and put a message in front of that water, we're going to jam it down the throats of sports fans, and they're going to get it. You couldn't, when we got Monday Night Football, you could not hide from the fact that Monday Night Football is on ESPN. You know, wait till the BCS, we're the home of all 5 BCS games this year. Wait till December. You put on ESPN, you're going to get the BCS logo in your face. You're going to see it in your sleep, whatever you want. It's just the plain reality. Well, starting with promos like this, 6 months ahead of the event, we did that. And it was identified as a company priority. So if you were ESPN.com, ESPN Magazine, you were sat down and said, okay, how are you going to do it? How are you going to get the word out? So that boosted it a lot. And that's why the marketing of the story to tell in South Africa, plus the passion of the World Cup, equals the best ratings that we've seen in America for the World Cup. There's another significant aspect here in the U.S. that I think relates to soccer. My friend Dominic's in the back. His kids are at the bus stop with our kids. Dominic lives and dies with the Italian national soccer team and all the club teams in Italy, okay? Dominic, like a lot of other folks, has a country of heritage, a country of birth, 1, 2, 3, 4, even 5 generations removed from where your ancestors came before they got to America. And that's their home team. So the USA, for a lot of people, become the second team to root for, especially those who are truly passionate from soccer, who had somebody, a relative in their life who grew up in an Italy, in a France, well, maybe not France, in England. Those are the soccer folks here. Brazil. So that passion is there times 2. And USA is the second team, so that's why it doesn't take as great a grassroots hold in the United States, in my opinion, as we observe it. Now, the USA won in dramatic fashion. Won games they shouldn't win, but if you listen to the folks who know soccer. It coached in a very conservative method, not with a very exciting style of play. And just to give you a sense of why that's important, and the soccer folks here know, people in Brazil are still upset the way their team won when they won. It's not enough to win, you've got to win with style. The Dutch, the honest to goodness, bless the Dutch, they're the most fun-loving people. I wish I could tell you stories about some of the Dutch folks we met there, but the camera's on, I can't. They told great stories about themselves. But the truth is, they would rather see their team lose and play beautiful football, is what they call it. They want to see the beautiful game played. And for Brazil, Clockwork Orange was a team in the 70s that played just beautiful soccer for the Dutch. They want to see them win with style as opposed to just win. It's counter to everything we think in America. America's soccer style was conservative, so it wasn't this wow, appealing brand of football being played in the U.S., but the national team won exciting, dramatic games, had a couple of guys who became heroes, like the goalie Tim Howard, Landon Donovan, had the coach's son, Michael Bradley, playing some good midfield. So all those things got people involved in USA Soccer. Bill Clinton shows up at the games next to Mick Jagger wearing a scarf. Ain't this something? Isn't it great? Momentum built for the right reasons to appeal to America. We had stars, we had people we could talk about, we had our celebrities getting into it, flying halfway around the world to go watch them. Here's the difference. If you take soccer on a week-to-week basis in the U.S., the MLS, it's like watching AAA baseball or a minor league level. The best soccer in the world is played in the English Premier League, Serie A, and the league in Italy. The best soccer is played in other leagues around the world. I'm just hitting a couple of them. It's not played here in the U.S. So how is it ever going to grow unless we get, because we're obnoxious. We're spoiled sports fans. Do they play better baseball anywhere than America? No. We only play football here, the NFL football for the most part. Basketball, the league will start next week. We have 75 guys from other countries who come to the NBA to play. Golf, all the best golfers in the world come to the PGA Tour to play. So we get, and hockey, I didn't mean to skip over hockey fans and the Red Wings. So look at the Red Wings, it's, you get the Swedish national team playing for the Red Wings. And it's all great, but the reality is they come here to play the best sports in the world. So what we have on our shores for soccer, 7th, 8th, 9th best league in the world maybe, and I'm not exaggerating, the MLS is just not a high quality of soccer. So that's some of the challenges of marketing the game going forward, that how do we take this momentum of the World Cup and people watching and spin it forward, play it forward for the game. So I think those are some of the problems that are ahead. If we get the World Cup in 2022, and the bidding's out there now, but there are some questions to what's happening with the corruption of the bid. What a shock. That's another item that will help going forward. To have the World Cup, when it was here in the early 90s, excited a lot of folks. Now that there's more American soccer as a base, we make the World Cup on a regular basis. We won our group for the first time in generations, second time all time. Now there's a little bit of a building momentum. The difference is that soccer narrative keeps going around the world, week to week. You can't pick up a tabloid in England and not hear about Wayne Rooney and Manchester United or Chelsea or Liverpool or all these great teams that play in the English Premiership. Here, the sport disappears. Maybe we'll catch the national team in a tournament with other people in the Americas. But for the most part, the sport disappears. And until that happens, I think the sport will stay where it is. But there was some growth from 2010. I know that. I experienced it. I'm a part of it. I get asked about the World Cup a lot, and I think it's going to grow even more. I'm going to leave you with one story before questions. This is the power of the World Cup. These things. And you didn't play very well. I can hear them in my sleep still. Every game. When the South African team played the opening game, which was June 11, it was the most amazing experience. It was 4 a.m. We stayed in downtown Johannesburg. 4 a.m. And my body's all messed up. I don't know what country, state, city, what time it is. 4 a.m. you start hearing this. 4:10 you start hearing. And you heard that for the rest of the day. In the whole city. I had pictures of the bus ride that we took to our International Broadcast Center, which was right across from Soccer City in Johannesburg. The coolest thing I've ever seen. Nobody went to school. Nobody went to work. People were outside blowing these things. And it was like a 20-mile parade to go to this stadium. It was so darn cool. It's a great story about these vuvuzelas made in China, as you heard before. They were just selling white ones, plain old white ones. So a guy walked in and to our broadcast center with one of these. So where'd you get it? Well, a South African artist painted it. Ah, cool. How many did he paint? A whole bunch. Started buying them. And then somebody who we're working with, who if you know U.S. soccer, Julie Foudy, she's probably, behind Mia Hamm, is the most influential and famous female soccer player in our country's history. Part of the '99 team that won the Women's World Cup. The guys remember when Brandy Chastain took off her jersey? Yeah, you all remember that, guys, right? Anyway, so Julie and her producer went digging and found the story of this guy. So the guy who was painting these was an artist in his 20s in South Africa. He was just painting white vuvuzelas and trying to make some money. So sold a bunch. We bought a whole bunch for ESPN. Other people in the broadcast center bought them. He made a lot of money. He was doing it in a one-room hut where he, his mom, and his 4 siblings lived. He made enough money selling these, and I think it was $10 a pop. I forget what the transition was money-wise. He made enough money building these to build a 2-room hut for himself to live, with the other room being an art studio that he had always aspired on having, and to build a place for his family to live, separate from him. All because he was an entrepreneur and took the marketing opportunity that fell in his lap. So it's a reminder, the simplest, so you see these things or hear them, Do you think of the annoying sound? I see these things forever and think of somebody who, if the World Cup didn't fall in his hometown, would have never had the opportunity to use his brain and a marketing idea, the simplest idea. Let me just paint one of these and try to sell it and turn it into a new place to live. I get chills telling the story because it really was so impactful of what the World Cup meant to South Africa and what it means in general. I think the nicest part of the story was I bought these for the kids. I did not send them home until I got home because I knew my wife would get 30 days of... All right, we have 20 minutes. If you really need to go back and leave, feel free. Go back to work. I'm not insulted. I'm used to people walking out on me. If you're going to go to the bar and just start drinking, have one for me. But if you got questions, let's do them, and I'll try to answer as many as I can as quickly as I can.
Stand up if you could so we can see you. There we go.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. I'm curious your perceptions outside of the sporting event of South Africa's sort of current place in the world, where it is on the world stage, its development as a country, and your perceptions from that.
This was a huge opportunity for them, and most of us thought they were going to fail. The buses ran, the crime was very low, given what people thought it was going to be, and what we thought it was going to be honest. The people were unbelievable. They were so proud. They wanted you to see their country. I thought they did well enough that when they discuss putting a bid up for the Olympics down the line, it will be taken legitimately. Now, I think there are still infrastructure issues. Remember, this is a country that was so ostracized by the rest of the world because of apartheid. In 1989-90, they were not allowed to compete in the World Cup or other global soccer events because at the United Nations level, the world told them, get out. Until you can get laws the rest of us can deal with, we're not going to deal with you. And eventually, being on an economic island, it's a massive country, being on an economic island changed the ground culture, the groundswell, the culture to get Mandela out of jail off of Robben Island and to start making peace with the world, so to speak. So can they do it? Can they do it in a larger scale going forward? Yes, but I think it's still going to take time. If you think of their country on its whole continuum, they go back to the Dutch settling there in the late 1500s. But in reality, the new country is only about 17 years old. So they have steps to grow. But this was a massive step and very well done. And if you ever get a chance to travel, I don't push many places, go. It's one of the great places in the world because you can be downtown in a city of 2.9 or 3.1 million, I forget, in Johannesburg. A 2.5-hour drive later, you're here to the wall with a pack of elephants and watching hippos graze over there, and just it doesn't happen over in Marshall or Chelsea. Although it might, I don't know.
Mike, we all love the coverage of the World Cup. It's quite amazing. I go back to 1970 when I saw the final at the Masonic Auditorium in Detroit, closed-circuit TV. 3,000 people saw the final in Michigan. A question about the broadcasting. Those of us who have been involved in promoting soccer here have always had to fight the stigma that this is a foreign sport, not American. And yet when the decisions were made about the broadcasting crew, somebody made the decision that it was going to be primarily English, which I thought was a little unusual, and I appreciate your comment on that. And then a second thought, I don't think I've ever heard so much negative analysis from people even like Lexi, who's a friend of mine, who commented as an example on the first half of the Greek match, which he said was notable only for the magnitude of their ineptitude, which is cute and plain to the audience, but it doesn't serve, when you're investing all this money in promoting the sport, to hear Steve McManaman and others being as negative they were about the quality of the game, I thought was disappointing.
Two great observations. The first one on the announcers, our corporate level decision was, how do you make it more authentic and elevate the coverage to the best in the world? Where are the best English-speaking play-by-play announcers of soccer? People who do it all the time. Our folks felt the group that does the Premiership, that experience, broadcasting in the UK, those people were lifelong soccer announcers. We should use them. That is why they went down that road. Would I have liked to have seen one American voice as part of that for the play-by-play group? Sure. Two of the four gentlemen live in the U.S., so they are familiar with American audience and American TV. So once you got past, our decision was go with an expert as opposed to the accent. And we tried to go with the guys who our folks thought were the best in the world, and a couple of them are, I think. So that was the decision behind that. In terms of the negativity, Alexi Wallace, who played his high school soccer here in the state of Michigan, has been a great U.S. team member over the years as well, and a great face and supporter of USA Soccer. Remember, he's Alexi Wallace. So he was going after the Greek team pretty hard because that's his first team, really his second team, obviously USA, who he played for being number one. But I think it was the meshing of we're promoting the sport, but don't lie to the fans. If you think it's bad, say it's bad. And we are encouraged. There was a Monday Night Football game 2 weeks ago where the Jets mismanaged the clock terribly. And I was extremely critical of the coach at that point, which is a little bit over my skis. I should leave it to the other guys. But it was so bad, I was in on it right away and I pointed it out. That's what American TV demands. Our job demands critical, pointed analysis. They get people to continue the conversation. You know what? I can't stand what he said. I'm going to go back and watch him again. I'm going to let him get me angry again. It's why people watch O'Reilly. It's why people watch Limbaugh. It's why people watch Overman. Seriously, they anger you. I'm still more mad at it. So that was a little bit of the push-pull. Are we promoting soccer, or are we honestly covering the World Cup? And we told our analysts, say what you want to say. And it came from their heart. So that's the answer. No, thank you. And thanks for all you've done for soccer over the years, too, especially in this area.
Hey, Mike, thanks. Brent Hemingway with Elmo's Main Street T-shirts. Thanks again for coming out.
Thank you.
My question is, it's about the lexicon. Basically, how we as a country call it soccer, and the rest of the world call it football. What, comment on that? Where do you think ESPN, if they are planning on doing the fire hydrant thing, on getting that to help us understand and make that bridge? And then just share a story, if you can, from Monday Night Football with Jaws and Gruden, if you have one. That'd be great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Glad to. Well, that kind of plays together. The reason we're never going to call it football in the U.S. is because our football is the most dominant thing in our sporting culture. I'll give you an unbelievable example. 64. I've done Monday Night Football. This is my 5th year, so we just did our 70th regular season game last Monday. The game between Jacksonville and Tennessee was 69 of the 70 in terms of quality of football. It was atrocious. It was awful. It was really awful. The fourth quarter, the place was half empty. It was 30-3. It was incredibly unwatchable. Parallel on TBS, which like ESPN is in 97 million homes, 9/10 of America have cable for the most part. So same exact apples to apples comparison. The Yankees, the most popular baseball franchise in America's pastime, playing the Texas Rangers, a team from a good market in Dallas-Fort Worth, one of the top 10 markets in America. In Game 3 of the playoff series, which was 2-0 into the 8th inning with the pitcher Cliff Lee throwing a 2-hitter. So a great, well-pitched game, well-played, no rain delays, nothing. Same universe, you get even number of choices to watch either one. The football game rated 14% higher than the baseball game. The second worst Monday Night Football game in 5 years outrated one of the 10 or 15 biggest baseball games of the year. We're not talking regular season, we're talking playoffs, and we're talking the Yankees in a 1-1 series in a good game. So that tells you right there, the king of American sport is football. So we're certainly not at this point going to start calling it football here. So we'll just deal with it. The rest of the world will look at it and say, well, your other football is stupid. And we'll say, yes, but you know what? It is the only sport that gets a $1 billion right fee from our network, let alone the other 4 networks that cover it. So that's where the imbalance is globally. I don't think that'll change. Monday Night Football, the best stories I can tell you, probably that John Gruden. John is thin-skinned for a guy who likes to give grief to people. You say that. And I love giving him grief back because I'm thin-skinned. I don't like taking the crap from people. I'm not the guy who takes the shot in the ribs and kind of. No. But we do it. He does it to us all the time. I see why he's a great coach and leader of men. Because every time there's something going on, he'll rip Jaws. Jaws, what do you know? You're Polish. Jaws, what do you know? You threw 16 interceptions. Jaws, stop throwing out stats. So then I'll turn around, I'm the one who gives it back to John. And now he, over the last month, has started giving it back to me. Say, we'll be watching a game. We get together every Sunday and watch all the NFL games together. We have a blast. And we'll sit there and go, who's that play-by-play guy? He's my favorite. God, he's good. Who is that? You ever tried to do some of his work? He's really good. That's what it is. It's like three guys who've known each other for a long time, hanging out together and giving each other grief and crap, and we have a lot of fun doing what we're doing, but it's hard workers. John sent me a text at 5:30 this morning. He's up watching the Dallas last 4 games to get ready for our game Monday night. He's a special guy. It's been a fun experience for me.
Mike, I have a question for you about football.
Which one? American football? Okay.
ESPN's become more mainstream, obviously, in their presentation and a big media source. How do you balance out the blogs, the rumors, every website that's out there that has a rumor, and for you to cover it? A case in point with the Favre scandal, it was out there for a long time, and it wasn't until Deadspin put something up that you guys started covering. How do you balance that rumor, go after stories and not go after stories in this day and age where there's so much information out there?
It's a great question because the media has become the Wild West, where it's just kind of throw it out there, and the problem with that has become where's the truth? I'll give you an example of that in a second. The Favre story we decided to start covering when the NFL said they were investigating it. That's the same of CBS Sportsline, Yahoo Sports, FoxSports.com, MSNBC's website. So until there's something official that's beyond rumor, where you can get it confirmed, that's why we don't cover it. There's a lot of criticism in the media when somebody says, well, this was reported by whatever website, and confirmed by ESPN's Chris Mortensen, or confirmed by someone from ESPN. And they'll say, well, ESPN's taking credit for it. Well, their head's in the sand, because what ESPN's doing is they're trying to make it still a place of credibility. Because there are very few places. I know when I turn on Fox News or CNN, I have a hard time figuring out what's fact, what's opinion. I'm trying to make it someplace where, okay, second person is confirming this. This means this is true. So how do you keep some sort of a standard in a world where a lot of stuff gets thrown out there? The story was put out yesterday that ESPN asked, that bad game I was talking about before, went so fast and so quickly that there were not enough time for the commercials in the game. Each NFL game guarantees 4 commercials a quarter, essentially. The game was so quick, so few possessions in the second half, we didn't have time for commercials. So we were 2 commercial breaks shy at the end of the game. The official has the responsibility to tell each head coach, just so you know, you have X number of timeouts left in the half, and TV is out of commercials, or TV has 2 commercials left. Why do they tell them that? It tells you if you need a 1:30 commercial or a 30-second for your timeout that you call. The bottom line of the story is, we still had timeouts that needed to be taken. We were making a plan for having to do it after the game. The coaches were told, and one of the coaches decided to use his 3 timeouts just to let us get the commercials in. Totally his choice. We didn't ask. We have no way to ask. The story was reported. ESPN went to the coaches and asked them to call timeouts. Completely inaccurate. Completely. I saw the whole thing happen and was on the inside of the story. But it was reported that way on one website. It got repeated on 8 other websites. The retraction didn't get the same coverage that the story did. So that's the world we live in. So you have to just balance and try to be someplace where you come and say, you know what? This is fact. This has been confirmed by multiple people. It's not easy. It gets harder every single day.
You know, I think it was actually those guys from Buffalo Wild Wings that
Hey, did you notice that Detroit is in that commercial? Yeah. Is Detroit losing in that commercial? Somebody pointed out and said, look, even in the Buffalo Wild Wings commercial, the Lions are losing. Yes.
Hi. While you were at the World Cup, did you have the opportunity to go out and explore things besides the World Cup? I noticed the Zulu tribe. Did you maybe have the opportunity to go out on photo safari or any of those kinds of things?
2 trips to game parks, which were amazing, to see the zebras and the elephants and more animals than I can remember, just in their natural habitat. It was not a real safari. Those are the overnight ones. There's a difference between a safari and a trip to a game park, which so I've come to learn. That, and then the day that I'll never forget was going to the Apartheid Museum in Johannesburg, which has so many of the artifacts of the apartheid trail over the years. And what they do is something very neat. If you're black, they hand you a white card. If you're white, they hand you a black card. And you go in an entrance that is marked blacks only or whites only. So you go in the one that you're not to experience the way South Africa was experienced for people up until apartheid ended in '94. And you go through a certain part of the museum and you don't get to see the other part, the one you go in. It's the one you don't go in. And it just immediately hits you over the head how 20 years ago this place was so drastically different. And the amazing part for me of that, the impactful part I should say, was that tour was given to me by someone who was jailed in the apartheid movement for several years. A gentleman named Moss, who we hired as our cultural conscience almost. He was able to explain authenticity of music, language, dance, different things that we were doing during our broadcast. And he took me around the whole apartheid museum, and there's one wall with the 100-some-odd laws of apartheid that are part of apartheid rule. And he sat there and explained 4 or 5 of them to me. One that was a liquor law that said there were certain liquor stores that blacks could go to, and the liquor that was available there was not the same as the liquor available in the white liquor stores. So, and then there was a third distinction. You had to carry, you know the immigration debate that happened with Arizona, and how from a marketing standpoint it's been a disaster in many ways for a lot of companies in Arizona that have taken conferences and moved away from the state. In a large part, I was asking illegals or potential illegals to have their documentation on them at all times. Well, that was the case in apartheid South Africa. You had to always have your card on you that said if you were black, white, or mixed race, which was termed colored. And you were, at a moment's notice, demanded to show and produce those to determine if you were in the right place or the wrong place. So those are the things that, away from the 33 days of wearing makeup and watching soccer games, that were the most memorable for me. Thank you.
Hi, Mike. Sorry to bring it back to soccer and advertising and marketing.
No, please.
My question is, I was arguing with my marketing and website guy yesterday about the Vuvuzelas, which virtually made the game unwatchable for me the first couple games before they really got good at filtering them out. Please don't.
No, keep talking. I want you to go through a win. Keep talking.
So his thought is, any press is good press, right? Exactly. That's the case for me. So, and yet I thought a lot of people weren't watching them because of the annoying buzzing you couldn't get to go away. From inside, from over there, from ESPN's perspective, was the whole controversy over the Vuvuzelas, is any press good press, or was that actually hurting the ratings?
I don't think it hurt the ratings. I think it impacted people. But to the point we were just talking about authenticity and reality and what's fact, what's not fact. In a shocking development, the French were the ones who decided, well, we're going to do a broadcast without any noise. No, they offered on one of their versions of their ESPN called Canal Plus a broadcast with no natural sound, so you didn't have the vuvuzelas.
The can in applause?
No, there was just no back, it was silent. It was 2 guys sitting in a men's room somewhere at Canal Plus broadcasting the game off of TV.
Okay.
It was the question of, could you hear the announcers? And in some cases, and we do a football game in the U.S., we're in a press box that's kind of inset, a bit away, the microphones are a little bit better. The World Cup, because the live broadcast is going to over 40 some odd countries with people at the game site broadcasting, you don't have a press box that big, so they're really sitting in 2 sections in the upper deck. So the sounds, there were games where I sat next to people who were announcing the games and we were here to there. So it was hard to filter it out. So that's why they use some technology to filter out some of the pitch of the sound. And they use some Hollywood audio technology used in movies to help the filtration of the sound. Was it an impact? I don't think a ton of people stopped watching. If it meant something to people, they kept watching. It certainly impacted the people who watched, because I will tell you that every time it gets discussed that I was there, people say, do you have the sound of the vuvuzelas out of your head yet? If I heard it once, I heard it 500 times. So certainly it made an impact. But I don't think it was the thing that made you turn the TV off if you came to watch the World Cup.
So, want to stand up? We have one last question here, and then we'll close.
All right. Thanks, Mike, for being here.
Thank you.
Love having you. But wanted to ask you about the World Cup. You said in the past you weren't much of a soccer expert or didn't really follow the sport too much. Knowing that ESPN was sending you there as an expert, and it was so heavily promoted, and just that the country was going to look at you and your colleagues there as the experts. Was there an extra pressure associated with that, or did you take any separate steps to ensure that you were more knowledgeable?
That's a great question. I never consider. I'm not an expert on pro football. I'm not an expert on the NBA, the sports. I'm not an expert on golf that I've covered for about 15 years now. The experts are the people who. That's all they do. They live it. They are. Paul Azinger's a golf expert. Alexi Lawless is a soccer expert. Bill Walton is a Pughie Brown, the basketball experts. Gruden and Jaws are football experts. That's all they do. I just come in and I try to be the buddy on the couch, the guy at the bar, hanging out with you, and pick your brain on certain things. And I listen to your expertise, and this is just my approach to everything in general. I have access to a lot of information that people don't have time to do. Everybody else has a real job. They have to do something else. My real job is to look at sports stats and games and learn all that stuff, and then be curious and ask questions, and then be able to be that human PA announcer and say, it's this guy, number so-and-so, and here's his story. So I didn't feel like I had to be an expert, but I felt like I needed a knowledge of the passion of the sport, the rules, the history of the World Cup. And I did go to work on those things, and I have a whole bunch of loose leaf binders at home that I've read through and highlighted and carried around with me that I've kept because I'm hoping I go back to 2014 to Brazil for the next World Cup and get to experience that, because it was a great sporting event. But as I said before, I didn't think it was my job to be the sports answer man. I thought it was my job to be the American sports fan who was there, who had the access to some experts, like we were discussing before, to be able to ask them questions as a fan. So I try to take that approach. And the word expert and genius are the two most overused words in